Oh, jeez.
Hi, my name is Kevin McDonald, and I'm declaring my independence. Independence from what? Why, negative thoughts and energy, of course. Chief among them, hate, division, and fear. You see, I know that we're all one, and together we can solve any problem, save our planet and each other. Please, join me as we come together as one and choose a better way to be. So now, let's begin with my independence report.
And welcome everybody to my Independence Report. And boy, I tell you what, sometimes things just happen the way that they're supposed to happen, and they're not necessarily how we'd like them to happen, but you have to roll with the punches. Allyson Roberts, how are you, my friend?
I'm great. How are you, Kevin?
I'm just really, really good. And for those of you that were expecting us at noon and we were a little late, that's because we had some technical issues, which can happen when we're live,
Yep.
but that happens, and we're good. So Allyson Roberts has been on the show before, and she's going to be on the show again because she's got some great information. She's a wonderful transitional coach. And she also has got a program coming up this fall that we're going to talk a great deal about. And first of all, how are you? How was your week?
I'm doing great. The week has been really. I can't believe we're in the middle of July.
I know. It's crazy.
It feels weird, right?
It feels like time is going by so fast.
So fast.
It's amazing. What by the way, have you done your Christmas shopping yet?
No, I usually start the day after Halloween when they put all the Christmas stuff out, and I'm done by Thanksgiving, and I wrap everything Christmas Eve.
Is that kind of a tradition?
It is. Yeah.
Oh, that's fun. Our tradition was, we live in Seattle, and when the kids were home and I was married and stuff, we would go down to Pike Place Market on Christmas Eve day and go pick up some fresh crab, some a Dungeness crab to have for dinner that night, and they had these giant donuts that were like this big, and we bought the kids those and bread and all that kind of good stuff. So it became a family tradition, and I encourage every family to do that for a tradition, or to do something for a tradition.
I do too. It's funny though because we will build these traditions, and then if a divorce happens or when grandparents start to die and things like that, then our holidays don't feel the same anymore, and our reptilian brain kicks in, and that's when depression kicks in. So you have to also be really careful about, yes, it's a tradition, but we also are really open to all these other. I always tell everybody, like, do at least one thing every holiday that's a little bit different from the year before, so that the reptilian brain doesn't get so attached to a tradition that when it does change, because eventually it will, that depression doesn't kick in.
It is so hard. I remember when I was like 19 and it was like Thanksgiving, and my sister and brother had left the table and my cousin had left the table, and sitting there was my grandfather and grandmother, my other grandfather, my aunt and my uncle, my dad and my mom, and me. And I looked at around the table, and because it was a tradition what we did, and grandma was a great cook, and I was just sitting there looking at it going, all these people are going to die.
Yeah.
And I actually said that. I said, sooner or later, I'm going to be the only one left of you. and it was like I'm so sad that's going to happen, but that's really struck me as a reality. That's what life is all about, isn't it?
It is. I mean, it is what life's all about. And some of my friends are like, "Oh my God, Allyson, you're so morbid." But I mean, the holiday season is when most people take their life. So, there's ways to prevent that from happening. And one of those ways is to divorce ourselves from rigid tradition.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think that really is cool, and especially now with the COVID and I saw a statistic yesterday that opiate deaths were up 25% in 2020, and it's like to 97,000 people died of opiate abuse and stuff, and so we've got a lot of issues in our little country, in our little heads, in our little reptilian brain that we've got to try and get around because it's been pretty dark, hasn't it?
It has, but it's been dark for a long time. I mean, you
True.
know, let's just go back to how the country was founded. Millions and millions of Native Americans were slaughtered, and then we thought it would be a really great idea to go over to Africa and kidnap people and turn them into slaves, and then so it's our country. The mindset of our country from the very beginning was flawed. And I think that is a big reason of why our country is seeing so much turmoil right now, and so much division, is because when you're raised and you're taught that those types of things are normal, you know, then that's a whole nother mindset. And then when you're taught that, gosh, I may want to like stop and think about this a little bit, how the country was founded. And you don't want to stand for the national anthem. You don't want to do all of those things, not out of disrespect for the soldiers who sacrificed for our freedom. It doesn't have anything to do with that. It's why the song was written and when it was written, and what that day stands for. It doesn't have anything to do at all with our current soldiers. And so it's just, yeah, it's really interesting to be alive right now and be an American. And
Well,
listen, we're the greatest country on earth. I am, I feel very blessed to be an American. I'm really, really glad that, that I'm here. So it's not like anything that's anti-American. It's just being in a bird's eye view of looking at the situation that we're in right now and what caused it and what's going to cure it.
I couldn't agree with you more that in the Constitution it does say that an African American is 5/8 of a person. And that was the belief in the 1700s.
Mhm.
Fortunately, we've gone past that.
Yep.
Women did not get the right to vote. People have forgotten that women did not have the right to vote until 1920. It's been like just 100 years that you've been quote
Kevin, we
unquote.
couldn't even have a credit card until 1979 in our own name.
Really?
Yeah.
I now that I had no idea about that, and that's see that's how unless you have to live through it, a lot of times you're ignorant about what other people have had to go through in their lives. It
Right.
it it really is astounding. Set 1979. See, and that's to me that's counterproductive because credit cards for women are would be like that's a cash cow. We could because women use credit cards and stuff, but and they love to shop. And I don't know if you do, but my ex-wife was a shopper. My mother is a shopper, and stuff. And so but it's amazing to me that I believe we are all equal, that we are all one. I know that we are.
Yep.
Um, you've got a different set of parts than I've got, and that's about the extent of it. Other than that, we're all the same.
Exactly. And the reason that I think that the opioid abuse has risen and there's so many deaths, is because we're ripping this band-aid off of imagination and storytelling in our country. And people are starting to see that all of this fairy tale you know that we've lived in. We my daughter and I were talking about this the other day. So true story, I live in the South,
I'm sorry.
right?
Just kidding.
um Yeah, and even more transparent is that my family came over here from England. My family was involved in slave trade. Um, it's not a family that I associate with anymore. But my maternal family was, associated with that. Um, and I remember my great grandfather, when I was really upset. I found out when I was like in eighth or ninth grade, um, that we, were involved in that, and that my great 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 grandfather, um, was a slave owner. But I was really upset about it. Um, and I remember my great grandfather saying to me, or my grandfather, I'm sorry, saying to me that, we were different. We treated them well.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but the sad part of that, Kevin, is that so many people believe that, and that somehow that makes it okay. You know, we kidnapped them and we took them away from their family and we made them reproduce so that like we could take their babies away from them and sell them to other people. But you see, we treated them so well that it's okay. It's okay that we did all that.
They got to eat, and so on a regular basis they got to eat. Isn't that
Yeah,
cool?
like they had shelter, you know.
Yeah.
So
It's
it
interesting.
infuriates me. It makes me, um no one no one in Germany ever says that the Holocaust victims were treated well.
Right.
No one ever says that. Um, and yet, and everyone gets really like, there's no swastikas flags, there's no statues of Hitler or statues of German soldiers that were involved in all of that. And the reason for the museums in Germany is to remind people, like, this is what happened. This is never going to happen again. And yet we have slave owners on our money that we spend, and statues of them everywhere. And yet the slaves here in America were treated the same, if not worse, than the Holocaust victims. And so it's just a real, I mean, when you start talking about mindset and things like that, people, our country needs to really wake up, um,
It does.
really wake up and come into the fullness of our history and really start doing some very proactive things so that we can start to heal.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. And in fact, I know you live in Georgia, and in Georgia, they have got still have got plantation places and mansions and stuff that date back to the 1700s. Um, Over here on the left coast, which is what they call us down there, because we're a little bit more progressive, and that's because nobody got here until about 1890. Most of the people that are here migrated from other parts of the country or other countries, and so we're all new here. So there aren't any buildings from the 1700s or the 1800s. There was no slave trade here ever. And so our attitudes are a little bit more progressive as far as how we treat people, because we don't have that stigma of having my great great grandfather be a slave owner, because that didn't
Well,
happen here, right? Unless they were there and then came here, but we
well,
don't even know.
yeah, this is how I feel about the plantations. I don't feel like they should be torn down,
No,
but we need to uh, make them what they were. We need to not memorialize them in like this really cool plan. We need to set it up exactly how the Holocaust museums are set up,
I agree.
where the slaves are remembered and honored, and not the slave owners, because the way that the plantations are set up right now is the slave, oh, look what they accomplished. You know, they had all this land, they had this, that, everything. And it's disgusting.
But all of that was built by people who had no choice. That
Right.
the slaves built all of that. They built
Right.
this up.
It's
And
why my daughter and I, we refuse to celebrate the 4th of July anymore, because, you know, slaves were made to fight.
yeah,
They were made to fight. I mean, and excuse me, you know, in the Revolutionary War, with the promise that they were going to be free if we won, and that promise did not come to fruition. And so, you know, when July 4th rolls around, we're like, well, I mean, it's, you know, if you look at how, I mean, people also in our nation, they have a tendency to brush over what the holidays really represent and say, well, what about the guy? What about our guys in Iran? What about our guys in? This wasn't about them. We need to make new holidays for them. This is about, you know, this is about what happened then, and I'm not going to acknowledge it by buying fireworks and putting meat on my grill to celebrate it.
exactly. Well, no, and fortunately, in this country, you're within your rights to be able to do that. But
Exactly. That's what I
and
mean. We live in the greatest country in the world as far as, you know, as far as our freedoms go. Um, and I say that from a place that I know that, you know, I am Caucasian. I say that from a place of knowing that, you know, I'm at the front of the line. I get it. I say it from that place because I am aware that I'm saying it from that place. You know, I don't have to worry about being pulled over by a police officer. I don't have to worry about a lot of things. Um, but with all that said, you know, I still believe that there's more good in this country than bad, and I'm hoping beyond hope that legislation and um, you know, laws and all of the things are going to start being more progressive so that everyone is truly, truly, truly safe here and free.
and can vote and do all the things that we take for granted.
Yes.
And
Yes. That can stand in line and have food taken to them. And
I had to laugh, and for those of you that may not have, and hopefully when you hear this or watch it, that will have been defeated. But there's actually a law that's trying to be passed that you can't, that if you're standing in line to vote, that somebody it will be against the law for somebody to bring you water. Now,
or food.
or food, that makes absolutely no sense to me.
No,
Um,
it
but
doesn't.
but but to make Allison, to make your point even broader, 97,000 people died of opiate abuse because they feel lost. They don't feel like they there's so many of us in this country that don't feel like there's any way for us to get out of this,
I
that
know.
there's hate, which is why I do this podcast, because I'm interested in getting rid of hate, division, and fear. And
Yes.
some people live in it. Some people revel in it. Some people like it because that gives them a sense of power. And so,
Yep.
but it hurts a lot of people who would like to live in peace, would like
I
to.
think, yeah, I think the majority of people want to live in peace.
I do too. I do too. But a lot of folks don't know how to get that done. But they need to talk to someone like you who can kind of transition them from where they're feeling today to where they can go tomorrow and live their lives full, happy, with wonderful expectations, and to get rid of a lot of the gook, because there is, just turning on the news, there's just a tremendous amount of gook. Do people that come to you, that do they feel depressed, like they're like, this sucks and there's nowhere to go and they don't know how to get out of it?
That is not my ideal person to work with. Um, and I say that just because the work that I do, that foundation has already been laid. So people have either already had like some therapy or some coaching before they come to me, or they're like you, they're just aware. They read a lot, they listen a lot, they get it, kind of thing. With that being said, I mean, yes, there are times when even, like last year, uh, in my coaching program, when everything started to get shut down, right? And there was no toilet paper and there was no hand sanitizer and people were getting furloughed and all these things. I mean, yeah, people in my program were like holding their breath, but we are never our outside circumstances. We're affected by them, but we only become them when we believe that we are our outside circumstances. And so, no one, and I pulled this because I was just curious. But no one in my coaching program, and they're from all over the world, no one ran out of toilet paper. No one ran out of food. No one ran out of water. No one went without electricity. Yes, we were restricted from seeing our family members. My father contracted COVID and died.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, yes, we had some hard things happen collectively. However, because of this work, we were able to lean into that our thoughts and our feelings are everything. And so, yes, feel your feelings, because we're not robots, and our feelings help us know that we're alive. So, I tell everybody we're born with 4 basic emotions, glad, mad, sad, afraid. That's really all we get. Everything else is just kind of builds on those 4 basic emotions. And so we would talk a lot about the mad and the afraid. Most of the people in the coaching program at the height of the pandemic were not sad. Most of them were angry and very, very afraid. So we worked through all of that. And, with this opioid thing, it makes you wonder, were they addicted before all of this happened and then it just escalated? Where is this data coming from? What was it last year? Like, I'm a scientist, so I want to know, like, I want to see the data, I want to know, like, is it up 3% or is it up 50%? Of the people who died, like who had addiction before, and I would want to see more information. But whenever I hear numbers like that, I'm just like, ugh, it's sad.
And it's hard now. According to this article, which I don't, it's single source, so I can't sit here and say that it's absolutely fact, because you need to get multiple sources. I've learned this. You need to get multiple sources from multiple places in order to be able to make sure that you're getting the accurate information.
Yeah,
And sometimes you have to sparse it and figure out what may be true and what may not be true. But
exactly.
I suspect that it's more true than not, only from the standpoint of, if you're stuck in your house and you can't go out, you can't work, and you got nothing else to do, and you're already addicted to something like that, then it's real easy to say, wow, what the hell, one more pill won't hurt, or one
Right.
more injection won't kill me, and maybe it will, and stuff. But I think that our society is, it's interesting. Our society is in for a cataclysmic change, in my opinion. And people like you are going to help us get through it. Because people could somebody, so like, if somebody is out there and they feel like they need to go talk to somebody, you would recommend that they go to a therapist, and go talk to somebody like that and get their kind of their ducks in a row of where
Yeah.
they want to go. They understand where they want to go. They
Yep.
may not be able to get there today, but they understand that there is a better way. There is a way out. And then that's when they should contact you, when they kind of have a clearer understanding of where they're trying to go. Is that more accurate?
Yeah, and most of my clients, they have it together. They look really amazing on paper. They don't have an addiction. Well, I mean, I think we all have some form of addiction somewhere, but they're not struggling with drug addiction. They're not struggling with alcohol addiction or sex addiction. The big ones, the big three, right? But they look they look amazing on paper or good on paper, but they're just not happy. Like there's just something like they can't. There's something that's blocking them. They can't make the money they want to make. They can't find the love they want to find. Like there's just something that's in there that's in their way.
And your job is to go find out what that is and to help
Mhm.
them recognize it so that they can get that out of their way, so that they can trust that everything is going to be okay.
Yeah, because the thing is that it's not about money,
No.
never, and it's not about time ever, and it's not even about the ex-husband or the ex-wife or the kids. It's never about any of that stuff. It's what's going on here, here, you know. Um, and the process that I use is called personalized science. And what that is a combination of cognitive behavior and spirituality. Because along with the science, I personally believe, and even if it's this pen, we've got to believe in something more than ourselves. Because
Absolutely.
then life just becomes really dry and hopeless.
And I tend to believe that, and again, this is my personal belief, that it needs to be, or that you would be best served by a belief that everyone is in your corner, working on your behalf, and that there is no judgment, there is no downside, but they are interested in you being the best that you can be and living the life that you chose to live when you came here. And they want to help us get through that and understand that. Our job is to understand that they're actually there for us and nobody's
Yes,
working against us.
exactly. And people will be like, well, why does the universe do this, that, and everything else? The universe doesn't do anything that we don't agree to on some level. Um, and I'm not talking about being raped or beaten. I'm not talking about that. That's a whole nother bag of donuts. I'm just talking about life in general. You know, we tee it up, um, and the beautiful thing about this work is that it kind of helps people start seeing that we're in way more control than we think we are, and we can't control anything, and yet we can control everything. um, and when you start to understand that, then you start to see that the universe isn't against you, it's actually for you, and it's cooperating with you all the time. So if you believe that you're nothing, the universe is like, okay, you're nothing. And if you believe that you're everything, then the universe is like, okay, then you're everything. So it's like a magnetic force that we all live in, and then our outside world is just like evidence of what's going on the inside.
So the words that we choose are very important, aren't they?
I think words are evidence of what's already going on inside of us. I would say that thoughts that we choose are way more important than the words, because we're just saying what we believe. And so when you start to change your thoughts, and then your thoughts create a different feeling, and then those two things together create a new belief system, and then the words are just proof of what you believe.
And it becomes even more difficult because sometimes the thoughts that you have always thought and told yourself aren't even your thoughts. They came
They're
from
not.
somebody. Yeah.
Right. They're your parents, your grandparents, the teacher, the babysitter. Yeah.
And you don't stop to recognize that, because that's how it's always been.
Right.
And until you can recognize that and make a conscious effort to change it and to stop it, it's going to continue in that vein, right?
It does. It continues in that vein. Yep. And we believe it because we heard it from someone that we trust.
Who we thought was smarter than us at the time.
Right.
But I want to remind everybody that when your parents had you, they probably were someplace in their 20s, maybe 30s, but most of the time it's in their 20s. How smart is a 25-year-old in the grand scheme of things? As far as telling a 3-year-old you're stupid, or you can't do this, or don't do this, don't do that, or you're not pretty, or you're not this, or you're not, because they're angry or whatever. And they're 25 years old. What the hell do they know? They don't know anything.
Right. Exactly. Right. And unless they're enlightened and have done self-work, they're just repeating the parent's story from their parents, and their parents repeated the story from their parents. And so, I mean, my grandfather is a great example. His father told him, oh, we treated them different. And then his father told them, oh, we treated them different. And so on and so on. Well, when it got down to me, I was like, that's complete crap. That is complete garbage, what you just said. That's crap.
I've never heard anybody, and I've talked to several people that their ancestors were slave owners. I have never heard anybody say, "Yep, we treated them like crap, and we beat them all the time, and we starved them half to death, and we were proud of it because we could." I've never heard anybody say that. Everybody says, "Oh no, we were enlightened. We had slaves, but they were like our children," and that's just
Oh God.
That's just a bald-faced lie. And they don't know.
It makes me crazy. It makes me crazy. It makes me crazy.
And you know why it makes you crazy? Because you are a loving, kind, affectionate person that cares for people at a very, very deep level. And you know that all of that was, our country was based on a screwed up idea. And we've been spending the last 250 years trying to get out of that idea, and we're not there yet.
We're not. And, have we made strides? Before Trump was president, I really believed that we had made greater strides than we had. But when he incited all of the hatred and gave permission for hateful people to step forward and start using their voices, and gave them permission to be racist, and gave them permission to use violence and all of those things, it really breaks my heart, honestly, truly, that we're nowhere near anywhere close to where I thought we had come as a nation. I mean, I'm glad to know it. I'm really glad to know it. I would much rather, and that's why I think he became president, it was to just rip all of those blinders off of those people who, I mean, I believe that our brothers and sisters of color have always known that it's bad.
Mm-hmm.
They've always known that they're not in the front of the line. They've always known. But, as a Caucasian in Georgia with my little privileged blinders on, I truly believed that we had come a lot further than we had. But I'm glad to know. I'm glad to know the truth, because you can do something. You can do something with the truth. And I tell my clients the same thing when they come to me. When they come to me and whatever their situation is, we have to rip the blinders off first. I have to rip the blinders off and be like, this is your life. This is what's really happening in your life right now. Like, it's time to get uncomfortable so that you can do something about it. You can't do anything about anything that you're comfortable about.
Right. And I honestly believe that it happened before Trump, because we had this guy that was in the White House. He had a beautiful wife, two terrific kids. He was there for 8 years. There were no scandals. There were no lies. There were no cheating. There was no paying off mistresses. There was none of that kind of thing. And there still was a segment of our society that determined that he was a bad president because of the
Oh,
way he looked.
oh, listen. Yeah, don't I know. I know.
And so it became the pendulum swung the other way, because those people then mobilized, and they decided to pick, in my opinion, the most despicable man possible, and that it was clearly had racist tendencies. And everybody else was asleep, because we thought, and I thought, that we had progressed past that, but we did not. And so he came in, and as a reaction to President Obama being elected, and because there was a segment of our population, including some in my own family, that thought that he was born in Kenya, and that
Oh yeah, me too. Me
and
too. I've had to put up with all of that stuff in my own family for decades. I'm sick of it.
all of those things that were blatantly not true, and were done, promoted by a news organization or two that didn't dabble in the truth all that often. They were more of opinion than, and they had an opinion. And so Trump came into power, and then that opened up the floodgates for all these people to say, well, now it's okay. We can come out of the woodwork, and we can be racist, and it's okay, and we can march, and we can go to Charlottesville, and we can say Nazi slogans, and we can do, and it's like, holy crap, there are a lot
Yeah.
of these people out
And
there.
we can storm the Capitol,
Yes.
which is sickening. The whole thing, all of it's sickening. But yeah, I just
But we have the ability, now that it's out there, and nobody can claim that it's not out there anymore. We now have the ability to be able to say that's not acceptable in
right.
this day and age anymore. You need to wake up. I have a friend. No, he's not a friend. He's a friend of my son's, who's sitting in jail in Washington D.C. because he was a Proud Boy, and he was at the Capitol, and he invaded the Capitol, and caused damage and stuff like that. And he was proud of the fact that he went and did that. The kid's 23, or no, he's 30 years old now. He's got a child and a wife, and he's facing 30 years in jail because of something stupid.
Good.
And I think it's good that
Good.
that's
I'm
that
glad
that
he's facing 30 years in jail. I'm glad. That's
yeah, because he bought into something that was just so stupid and so not true, and there's a segment of our population that believes this stuff, and it's so I'm hoping that over time they will, as soon as August goes away, and Trump isn't reinstated, which some people are saying he's going to be reinstated as president and stuff. As soon as all that goes away and they calm down, and then we can maybe get to the real work that we have to do to understand, to get people to understand that being a white supremacist is not sustainable. Because we're all together, we're all one, but then these white people are scared. They're scared that they're going to lose their position of power. I think.
I hope they do.
I hope they do too.
I
I
hope
hope
they
they do
do.
too. But
I hope they
unfortunately,
do.
and
I
and
really do.
yeah,
It's time for the people who deserve it, regardless of their national or not nationality, but regardless of their ethnic background,
You know,
and their heritage, that, you know, and the color of their skin. You know, the qualified person needs to be the person who's in power, not what's currently happening.
I have a story that I work for a chicken company in Arkansas, and I had to do some training there. And one of the other sales guys, this was in Fort Smith, which is where the hanging judge was, and there was some really cool history buildings and stuff in that area. And so he would take me out at lunchtime, and we would go drive around and drive through downtown Fort Smith and that kind of thing. And we're at a street light, and I'm looking around at the architecture because it's from the 1800s and stuff from downtown, and I hear him say out of the corner of his mouth, "Now there's a goddamn shame." And I start looking around. I don't see anything. I don't see what he could possibly be, because it never entered my consciousness. But then in the crosswalk in front of us was a white lady and a black man holding hands. And it was like that's what I said to myself. I'm not in Kansas anymore because this is too weird for me. I never even entered my mind that, because it happens in Washington State. It happens all the time. I mean, that's just the way we have blended families. We have people that are married that have blended kids that are one that looks like it came from a white family, one came from a black family, but they're brother and sister, and that's okay. That's the way God intended it to be.
Well, the beautiful thing, is that even though I am in Georgia, people here, at least in this tiny little segment that I'm in, are starting to embrace that more and more and more and more and more. We're getting less and less and less of those comments like the gentleman that said that to you. And, it's just, love is love.
And what infuriates me no end at this, that's what my dad used to say. That makes me mad to no end. But what infuriates me now is that we have blended families where you may have a white gentleman and a black lady, or vice versa. They have a couple of kids, and they have to have a conversation with their kids in regard to how they act when they are stopped by the police, what they do and what they don't do.
Yep.
White kids don't ever have to have that conversation.
They
and
don't.
and the one lady she's a good friend of mine. She doesn't sleep well at night when her children are not. He's got a 20-year-old boy, and when he's not home, she doesn't sleep well because she's scared that he's going to get stopped and bad things are going to happen. That's in the United States of America, and that should not be.
Yeah, and Kevin, I think often about, I really feel like, those of us who are awake, and our eyes are wide open and our ears are wide open, and who feel a calling to be, using our voices and in the public and things like that. I keep just feeling like, I don't know, like there's a seat somewhere where I'm supposed to help law enforcement and things like that with mindset, because it's really, it's just a broken system.
I agree with you. And by the way, keep using your voice for good. You're an extraordinary lady. You've been
Thank you.
through some extraordinary things, and you've come out the other side. You're a tremendous coach. You've got a program coming up in the fall that I swear we're going to talk about. But this is an important conversation to have, because if
It is, and more people need to be having it publicly, not behind closed doors in their living rooms, but more people need to be having it on podcast and on social media and on the, in the news and everywhere else, because, you know, what happens is that there are, there's two kinds of news, right? There's either Republican news or there's Democratic news. Um, and there's a place in between that where it's not news, it's just the truth. And the truth is not about what people think it is. The truth is that we are all one. The truth is that we all have the same DNA. The truth is that we all, we belong together, all of us. And it's a message that, I think in the 70s, people were trying to get that kind of message out, and then it turned into this whole hippie thing, and everybody, is weird or either high or, has to have a Volkswagen bus or something and be going to San Francisco with a flower in their hair. So it just really needs to be very like mainstream now. And that's why I talk about it as much as I can, because it's really, really important to me. And last year in Atlanta, when the riots started, and the whole Black Lives Matter movement was really, screaming, I probably, and I'm not exaggerating, I probably wrote about 400 emails to congressmen and legislators, and our local mayors, and our state representatives, just trying to make them aware that this is not like, a one-time thing. This is not something that just got sparked. This is not something that, and it's something that seriously needs, attention. And, did my letters matter? I don't know. But I'll keep writing them. I'll keep speaking. I'll keep doing it, because what's mindset work if we're not also using it, to help those who can't help? Well, they can help themselves, but you know what I mean? Like if we're not reaching behind and pulling up our brother and sister at the same time that we're elevating, then the point is that we're just rising for ego purposes, and that's not where I'm at.
No, no, and where you're at is where most of us should be at, which is love and compassion, taking care of each other, understanding that there are reasons why people are the way they are, and a lot of them are out of their control. When
Yeah.
they were young, or they couldn't get the education, or the educational system failed them, or their parents failed them, or the law failed the parents, and one ended up with 5 grams of crack cocaine and ended up with spending 5 years in jail, which happened all the time. And there was a law that was passed in 1986 that 5 grams of crack cocaine was the same as a pound of powdered cocaine, and they got the same sentence. And people of color who had no money bought crack cocaine. I'm not advocating drug use of any kind, but that was just the reality of it. So, we as people need to really take those things into account, but we got to stop. We have to believe that, we have to understand that we're all one. And when we get to the other side, when we get to talk to the folks on the other side, they're going to tell us exactly that. And the folks that stand up for that, they're going to work with us, and they're helping us to achieve it. We just have got a lot of work to do.
We do. But you know what? It starts right here. So, Behind the Power, it's an event I'm holding in Atlanta, Georgia. In October, guys, I have in-person seats still left. And if you don't want to come in person, you can come virtually. So go to behindthepowerevent.com. And we're not going to talk about politics at the event, I promise. We're not even going to touch on it. I promise, I swear. But what we are going to talk about is how amazingly powerful you are, how powerful your thoughts are, and how to turn your life around.
I
Yeah,
couldn't agree more. Each one of us has the ability and the right to live our lives exactly the way we choose to.
yep,
And if we get rid of all the gunk and all the crap that other people told us from years gone by and all the stories that we tend to believe, and then turn around and create our own stories, we have an opportunity to do that. One of my favorite ones was um, I told this guy one time, "Your life is empty and meaningless." And he said, What do you mean my life is empty and meaningless?" And I said, "Well, that's actually should be a really freeing thing, because your life is empty until you get to choose what you're going to fill it up with. And your life is meaningless until you assign whatever meaning you choose to have for it.
exactly. I love that.
And if you do that, and you follow and you work with people like Allyson that can help you get a little bit more clear about what it is that you want and how to go about achieving it, um, then you
It's
can
life changing.
it is absolutely life changing, because you can, if once you understand that you are actually in control, and then you can have anything you want.
Exactly. And you really can, regardless of, you know, race, religion, gender. Really, seriously, honestly. I mean, it doesn't discriminate. It works with for and with everyone.
And you've seen it happen.
I have time and time and time and time and time and time again in my own life, but also in the lives of my clients. I think that may have been why I was recognized as um, one of the top 100 coaches in the world last year. It's because
Congratulations, by the way.
thank you. Yeah, that was really was surprising. I didn't even know I was being considered for that. Um, but they look at your clients' results.
Wow. So now,
Yeah,
which organization is this?
FeedSpot.
Sorry, say that again.
It's FeedSpot. FeedSpot is recognized by Forbes as one of the most influential companies in the world. They share information.
So may I make a brief? I asked the universe to send me one of the best coaches on the planet, and they did. Her name is Allyson Roberts, because you're in the top 100 and there are a lot of coaches. You and I both know that,
Yeah.
but to be one of the top 100 and recognized as one of the top 100 coaches in the world, that's saying something.
I mean, I was humbled, excited, um, but I also know why. I mean, because this work works. It's I don't promise people that they're going to be rich overnight. I don't promise them that they're going to find love in 2 days. I don't do any of that. It's no bullshit. I just tell it like it is, and we get to work, and it works. So
And correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not something that you're just telling them stuff. They've got to buy into it, and they've got work to do themselves, correct?
oh, it's work. It's work. I mean, they're going to work. It's a time commitment. It's a money investment. But but it's going to be I say it, but my clients say it louder than I say it, which is it's the best investment of time and money that they've ever spent in their entire lives.
There comes a point in time for all of us when we wake up one day and go, "Holy crap, is this all there is? Isn't there more? Can't I have more? Why can't I have everything that I when I was 10 and I said I'm going to grow up and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that and where did I lose that? I ended up doing what I'm doing, and I'm not happy with it, and I'm not happy necessarily in my marriage. The whole thing. And
Yep,
that's when somebody like you can come in and help somebody who is ready, who says, this ain't working. I'm not happy the way that my life is going. I need to change it. I'm willing to do
yep,
whatever it takes to achieve that. And I want to hire you to help me get that done.
yep.
That is to be you would be fun.
It is fun. I love it. I really do. I spring out of bed in the morning. I love it. I love what I do. I mean, I'll work 15, 16 hours a day, but it doesn't feel like work to me at all.
Doing it as an example, doing this, I can do 4 or 5 or 6 hours doing this, back to back to back to back. It doesn't bother me a bit because I get such a charge out of, I get such an energy charge out of talking to people like you.
Thank you.
Because you're so adamantly good, and if you haven't heard Allyson's story, you need to go to I've done several podcasts with her now. Go review those. They're all very good information, and you can find out about her story, which led her to where she is today. And I submit that if she didn't have that, she wouldn't necessarily have this to the degree that she has it. And because she gets it, she understands it, and she can put it into practice and help you put it into practice. Because that's what it's all about.
Yes, that's what it's all about.
And it's great fun. So let's talk again about October. October's coming. It's going to be here before you know it. Do your Christmas shopping before you go. But what are the dates again?
October 20th, 21st, and 22nd.
You can go.
Actually, I just remembered too that I'm having I'm running a special right now. You can buy a ticket and then buy a second ticket for half off. So you can bring a friend or a family member or somebody and that's for both virtual and in person. So it's a really good deal running right now.
Would you advocate that a husband and wife that are of like mind that want to really get into it, should they come together?
Yeah, absolutely. I've several married couples coming.
Oh, that's awesome. Because
it's fun.
Especially it's at one point in time, it's hard because married couples, if you're not talking and stuff, they tend to drift apart. And this would be a great way for them to understand the foundation of their relationship and why they love each other and to get back to the basics of it.
Yep.
So if I had a spouse, I'd come and I'd bring her. I don't have them.
You should come anyway, Kevin.
I would like to. I really would. So it would be, it's one of those things that will do you good. It'll do your soul good, and you'll walk away from it feeling a lot more than you are today. And with the tools, because that's what it's all about, is to have the tools to be able to recognize when you're going down that rabbit hole and pull yourself back out and to get to the next level, right?
Yep.
So
absolutely.
It's tough. Allyson, is there anything you'd like to add? By the way, she's going to be back on the show. I'm going to make her. You're going to come back on in August?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
I love it.
I love to have you here. It's just, you just make my soul sing. And it's just,
oh, thank you. Yeah, I would love to be back on. Let's see, what message do I want to leave the audience with today? It doesn't matter how you grew up or what trauma you may have experienced, or how down and out you may feel right now. I promise you that you are powerful. You were born for not just one purpose, but many purposes. And if you just breathe and believe in that, the universe will guide you exactly where you need to be.
I couldn't have said that better myself. And by the way, just in case you are somebody this happens to me all the time. I don't know if it happens to you, but it happens to me. And then I'll ask you if it happens to you, which is I will be thinking of something and I'll be like having a conversation in my head about a particular thing. And then a song will come on the radio. And the song that comes on the radio is exactly what I was hoping to get in some sort of way as validation or whatever. One of them is a Metallica song, and I was like, well, now what about this? What about this? And I would like to do this, and the name of the song was Nothing Else Matters. So it's like, do it and nothing else matters.
That's awesome.
That was. So does that ever happen to you?
Synchronicity, yep, all the time.
And just be open to it, and
Yep, just be open. Yep.
be aware of it. And I like to
Yep,
say, trust and be open. Trust and be open,
exactly.
and it'll be there. Allyson Roberts has been with us. Go look at her website, which is AllysonRoberts.com, is it not?
It is.
I thought so, because it's right up there. I have it on my computer. I should be able to read that. So it's AllysonRoberts.com. Go there and sign up for her class. By the time I get around to it, it will be sold out. I promise you that. And you're going to help people. And you do help people. She's one of the top hunt coaches in the world. That's pretty dynamic. Can I have your autograph?
Yes, of course, on the book. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Allyson, thank you so much. Stay right where you are. I'll be right back.
Hey, and thanks for listening to this episode all the way to the end. Hey, pretty cool. Hey, don't forget to follow us so you can receive regular updates and new posts. And remember, take care of each other because each other's all we got. See you next time on My Independence